Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to give you an update of the things I've done to my project vehicle, my 2014 Chevy Caprice PPV, over the last week. As you can see, I've replaced an alternator. I've actually replaced the original fuel cap with a locking fuel cap, and the thing on the bottom there is the engine oil dipstick that I've replaced with a cable style. Make sure you check out the description section for links to the various sections in this video if you want to skip to a particular section. And if you end up finding the information in this video helpful to you, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's free, and hit that bell notification to be notified when I upload new videos to the channel. So let's get into replacing the alternator. First off, I'm going to be removing the top end of the airbox plus the baffle tubing over here, and that will give me access to all the tensioner and idler pulleys over there. I'm going to get rid of this whole assembly, then the lower box portion of the airbox. Then I'll have full access to get the alternator out according to the service manual. So that's what I'll show you next. Let's switch to the time lapse. We have the airbox out of the way, so now it should be pretty easy to get the alternator out based on the instructions. Of course, we have to remove the drive belt by releasing the tension on the tensioner pulley on the passenger side. We have a couple electrical connectors. We have the control connector on the side there. Then we have the positive power cable on the back end. We have a securing bracket on the back with a bolt, and then we have a couple bolts in the front here. So let's get to that. Hopefully get this pulled out in just a few moments. Time lapse. One thing I just noticed after getting the drive belt off of it and I spun the spindle up here, you can kind of see it wobbling. So there's a bit of a wobble to that particular pulley. Plus, it's not the quietest. There's some random squeaks that come out of it when it's warming up. So, good thing we're replacing it, because with that wobble, it's got, that shouldn't be doing that. Plus, at some point, I'll probably be replacing the harmonic balancer on this because it's got a slight wobble to it too. Whether that contributed to that or not, but it's subtle, but it's there, and it shouldn't have it. So, let's move on to get it out. Here's the alternator after it's been removed, of course, and I want to demonstrate the noise I was hearing. As we saw, there was a wobble in the pulley, and this is a ratcheting pulley where if the alternator gets a higher RPM than the engine, it will let it gracefully shut or rev down to match up with the engine RPMs. And to do that, it has to let it rotate a little bit separately from the drive belt speed. So as we're going along, then all of a sudden, where the pulley is actually going slower than the internals of the, so hopefully you're picking that up on the microphone sitting to the left of it there. So with that, let's get the new alternator put in place. Shouldn't be that difficult to get back in place, but let's start that now. Well, there's the alternator installed minus the belt at this point. The 3 bolts that secure it are tightened. The 12-volt power supply cable is cleaned. Should have cleaned that when I had the alternator out. It would have been a little bit easier, but cleaned it, secured it with the 12 millimeter nut, and then of course cleaned the pin connectors in that control circuit for the side of the alternator there, and got those installed. So this part is
just fine now, ready for the battery to be reconnected. And if we look at the pulley on this one, there's no wobbling in this particular situation, which may be a little hard to demonstrate. But also the idler part doesn't make any noise. So this should be much quieter. I've already replaced these two main drive belts, the grooved and the smooth. This smooth one was so loud it was embarrassing, actually. So I've got those replaced already. I'm waiting on some parts that should have been here yesterday but did not show up. Thank you, Postal Service. And hopefully they're here today so I can replace the idler, smooth idler on the air conditioning belt, and then the smooth tensioner on the air conditioning belt as well, as those are this one's quite noisy as well. So I'll get that swapped out, then I get the belts all put back on and get it driving again.
Well, hopefully that's been helpful to you. You can see that changing out the alternator on the Caprice isn't all that difficult, and the part is available. I ordered that one from rockauto.com and got it within 2 days. It was out of their Sparks, Nevada warehouse, so it was like almost the next day after I ordered it, I got it. And it's the same exact part. It's a Mitsubishi unit out of Japan, sold under an AC Delco part number, and hopefully it's a good one. We'll find out after we get it test driving, make sure that the charging works and there's no unexplained battery drain, making sure the alternator is good. So hopefully that's the case, and then we're done. I'm going to take this AC Delco part number GT344 or GM part number 23159210, and it's a locking gas cap that should fit the 2014 Chevrolet Caprice PPV that I have, but it is not listed as an official part that matches up with that vehicle. And I'm going to key it to my blade key that I recently had my car rekeyed to take it out of the fleet configuration so that I can put a locking gas cap on the vehicle. It is not a flex fuel yellow cap, which is fine by me. I know that it's a flex fuel capable vehicle, but in this case I just want to make sure I have a locking gas cap so that no one can pour anything into the gas tank. If they're motivated enough to get into try to siphon fuel, they'll find ways to do it. But I just want to make sure the casual passerby cannot open the fuel door by pressing on it and simply pour something in there. So I wanted to make sure I did this on the Caprice. I've done this successfully on a 2015 and 2017 Chevrolet SS sedan, and the threaded portion appears to be the same. Comparing this threaded portion of the locking gas cap with the flex fuel, which is again a yellow cap, but the threaded portion seems to be the same, so I should be able to install this on my Caprice without a problem, hopefully. But that's the project for the day, so let's get this opened up. And what we have in here is, of course, the main gas cap itself. Let's get the key out of the way for the moment. And then we have a bunch of pieces that we're going to be putting together here. This is actually the final slide pin in here that actually engages it to the gas cap. So once you get this in and push it in fully engaged, it does not come out. So make sure you're wanting to push it in fully. But all the lock cylinder and the various slide pins that are necessary for this to be keyed to your car, there are multiple of each type so that you can actually get it to match your blade key. So let's go ahead and pull the gas cap out itself. And of course the lock cylinder goes into this location here. And on this end it pretty much looks the same. And it even includes the retention clip and all that. So we'll put that off to the side for the moment. We have the instructions. We have all the different lock cylinder types. There's a left and right, if I recall correctly from doing this before. That final one that actually is used to keep the whole assembly in there. And then we have the actual blade key compatible lock cylinder, and then the shroud that goes over it once the pieces are in place. Here are the instructions in the English version of them, and it talks about that the lock cylinder only uses 4 of the 8 cut positions. So there are multiple positions within the lock cylinder here, and only 4 of those are going to be occupied by the pins here that we're going to use to match up with our actual blade key. And then there's that final one that I mentioned, which is basically the lock of the lock cylinder into the gas cap itself. Once this snaps into place, it doesn't come out. So make sure that you are 110% sure that you've got the right pins in place before you fully engage that into the gas cap. So we're going to, also the other thing to note here is in the instructions, you might be able to see these little images below the keys themselves, and here are those springs. That's what those are. And of course those push on the pins to keep them engaged, to push them outward as necessary so that when you pull the key out it will lock the lock cylinder. So we have these springs. We're going to use 4 of the 8 cut positions. So we have 2 on the top that are going to match up and 2 on the bottom, and then again this final locking pin in place. So I'm going to go through and insert into this particular lock assembly the appropriate keys, slide pins here, as I should probably call them, slide pins, into the positions necessary to match up with my particular key. Again, I recently had my blade key rekeyed for my Caprice PPV to take it out of fleet mode, so it doesn't have the same key as a lot of different vehicles in several of the departments around the area here. So I'm going to start opening up those plastic bags and find the right slide pins to put in place. One thing to note here, the glare of the bags here is unfortunate here, but each of these slide pins have a number. There's a 1L, 2L, 3L, 4L, and then 1R, 2R, 3R, 4R, and again that locking pin. The number refers to the cut depth of that particular pin. Through the experimentation with my particular key, I found that not all lefts were on the top and all rights were on the bottom. I had to find the correct mixture of left and right slide pins or tumblers that married up exactly with my key, so that when the key is inserted, none of the slide pin or tumbler protrudes beyond the lock cylinder. That outer cage will hit anything that protrudes beyond the edge of the lock cylinder. So make sure you spend the correct amount of time finding all the ones that exactly marry up with your key so they fit exactly within the lock cylinder, so you don't have a problem trying to unlock your gas cap because it binds up on one of the protruding slide pins or tumblers. So take the time, do it right. I now have the various tumblers, which is the correct name for these, or slide pins, but they are mated up with the key, and I can turn when the key is inserted. So I'm going to now go ahead and insert the springs underneath each of these, and then verify that the tumblers engage correctly with the key still, even with the spring tension below them. I'm going to take a tumbler spring, which you may be able to see there, and I'm going to insert that into the little socket for it. And then I'm going to insert the tumbler for that particular position. And you should be able to see that there's a spring-loaded action there. Lock that into position by putting the sleeve over it, like that. And then that means you have to rotate it over to get to the next position. And repeat the process. So I'll do that and get them all in place. I now have the various tumblers in place, the silver tumblers for the key in place that are working smoothly. The left and right, I had to do a mixture to find the exact right set of them that married up to the key that I have here. And I now have the spring underneath this particular lock pin. Right now I can't push the key up fully in until I get this in place, so I have to press that down in place. But the thing to, before I go that far, is, well, actually we'll get back to that in just a second. If we take a look and push this in, there's a little bit of resistance there, but you can see that this is at the end of that whole cylinder, so that once you push it into the gas cap, this is the locking mechanism that holds it in. And now you can see that we can move this, and the orientation of this particular cage over the tumblers is this tab here from the silver rotation cage piece is the part that needs to be up against the head of the lock cylinder, because that's what ends up engaging whether or not you can go past a certain point. The back surface is all smooth, which is necessary for the back end here. So now it's ready to be inserted into the gas cap. I'm going to apply a little bit of lube to these before I fully insert it. And if we pull the key out, we can see now that it locks up. And insert the key, and it easily moves. So that's the way it should operate. Now I'm going to put some lube on it, and then we'll get ready to insert into the gas cap. We can see inside the gas cap there's a couple actually protrusions here from the gas cap side. Let's see if you can see those there. And then down at the bottom, of course, are the pin hole that are the holes that receive these particular pins that come in from the lock cylinder. So I'm going to make sure I orient the cage of the tumbler assembly here. Those protrusions there need to line up with these two slots. And then as we insert this in here, you can see that the holes and the pins need to line up as well. So as we insert it, we need to make sure that pin gets depressed. And so now we're about ready to push it in. And this is your last chance. If you have any doubt about what's going to work or not work, make sure you don't proceed beyond this point, because once you push it in, it snaps into place. You'll never get it back out without destroying it. So I'm going to go ahead and push it in. And there's that little click. And now, if I put my key in, I can rotate this. And that should then engage the gas cap or disengage the gas cap, where it can only be tightened. And now if we rotate it with the key, we can undo the gas cap. So that's working like it should. Let's go out and install it on the car and take the E85 yellow cap off. And again, I know they're different colors, but I'm going to be using regular gasoline, premium 91 octane here in California. And I can always put the other fuel cap back on if I sell the vehicle, if necessary. But this should complete this step of it, and let's go out to the car and put it on. I'm now going to remove the E85 gas cap, and I'm going to try to disengage the two tabs on this particular piece here. See if we can get them to disengage. There we go. Came out. All right, let's remove the E85 cap. And let's compare it. The depth here is pretty much the same. The gasket size is the same. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Should just screw in like the other one did. Of course, the ratcheting. And I should be able to push this into here. Have it snap. There we go. And now I should be able to use my key only to release it. And you'll then unscrew. And then remove the key. And then unscrew. Seems to work. So there we go. We have a successfully installed GT344 gas cap that's keyed to the blade key on my 2014 Chevrolet Caprice PPV. One other engine bay change I made was to replace the original oil dipstick, which is the one in the front here, which is a two-section metal twisted dipstick here. And the part that I didn't like is this riveted section is a problem. As an owner of a Chevy SS sedan, I read of at least one person, possibly two, that ran into the case where the rivet popped out or fell out. It may not have been on the SS sedan directly, but this is an issue, at least I've heard of, happening. Plus, the insertion of this style dipstick is somewhat difficult at times. So there is a similar dipstick available, but it's a cable style that we see here. And it's basically a direct replacement for that metal style. both metal, but this is cable style. The tip of the dipstick is a little bit shorter overall, but the actual area where you read the oil level in the vehicle, it's at least that long. This lower dot here on the dipstick is not present. That length of cable is not present and the very tip on the replacement one. But this cable style is much easier to insert, and plus there's no rivets to potentially come apart. This is GM part number 12669528. I've been successfully using that style dipstick on my 2015 and 2017 my former Chevy SS sedans with the 6.2 liter LS3 engine, and the dipstick is identical, the style that was originally in this L77 V8 in the Caprice, because I compared it with the one that I had removed out of my SS sedan and they were identical, so I ended up ordering this cable style, and so far it's been working out quite well. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. You at least found some information in the video that was helpful to you. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you keep up to date on videos that I upload relating to my project vehicles. And once all this COVID-19 stuff settles down and we get car shows going again, you'll see some car show videos on the channel once again. So thanks for coming to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.